These images are one of the reasons that Donald Trump's approval rating is tied with his highest approval rating ever, according to this NBC poll. Look at the numbers. Trump's approval rating is 47%. That's higher. I know that you might say more people disapprove, but that's always the way it is if you ask a Democrat about a Democratic president or a Republican president. But that's a really good number, an approval rating of almost 50%.
And 4 years ago, his first term, he was at 40% at this point. This is so significant. They asked people if we're on the right track in November. 25% said yes. Now they're asking people, are we on the right track as a country? 44% said yes. This is pretty astounding.
But not good when it comes to the Democratic Party right now.
That's the highest, what, in 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's high since 2004. So the Republicans and independents have combined to give him that number. This shows overall that we're in a more positive frame of mind moving forward.
When you look at the Democratic Party, and this is their voters, this is independents, this is Republicans, only 27% say they have a positive or somewhat positive view of the Democratic Party. And 55% say they have a negative or somewhat negative view of the Democratic Party right now.
That's from NBC. And look at CNN. This is their poll. Plummeting Democratic Party favorability. Look in March of 2025. When was the
21.
No, March of 2025, 29%, which is now. January of 2021, 49%. That's how far they've fallen.
Yeah, this is a record low on CNN's poll. This is the lowest it's been since 1992, a drop of 20 points since 2021. And they've earned it. They've earned it by being totally off-kilter, mixed messages, and on the wrong side of 80-20 issues. So you ask yourself, who is going to be the standard bearer for Democrats going forward? There's nothing wrong with trying to find another leader after the devastating results of the past election. But I was stunned to see 30% overall don't have anybody, but 10% say AOC represents the values of today's Democratic Party.
Yeah, then you have 9% for Kamala Harris, 8% for Bernie Sanders. You got 6%, he wanted to oppose funding the government, Hakeem Jeffries. 4%, he's in the past, Obama. And then 4% for Jasmine Crockett, who unfortunately represents my home city of Dallas, Texas. I just don't think they're thinking right now. When I think of a reasonable Democrat, who's still a Democrat, but is moderate, you think of John Fetterman. You think of someone like Shapiro. You disagree with the policies, but at least they try to get somewhere in the middle. You don't think of all these folks that they just named, and if that's the direction they want to head in, I mean, good luck.
You know, they won't win elections.
Yeah, the other thing is when the primary process happens, both parties tend to pick the most extreme.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is usually if you're a moderate, you're forced over to the right or forced over to the left. That's why if you look at Governor Beshear, and people in Kentucky say he's not moderate, but
compared to the rest of
Governor Beshear, you look at Shapiro, you look at Fetterman, they're looked at as moderates. I don't think that Alyssa Slotkin is as moderate as she was labeled as, but we'll see what happens over in Michigan. She ran like that in order to win in a state that Donald Trump ran. But right now, it is AOC, who's standard bearer. She loves the camera, so she'll be out there. Jasmine Crockett's the other one, doesn't turn down an interview.
They also have to realize elections are not determined in New York and in California. There are a lot of people that are Democrats in the middle of our country, in the flyover states, in Texas, in South Carolina, where it's the common sense message for Donald Trump really that helped him, because some of the policies on the left are so far left. In California, your child's allowed to transition without you as a parent knowing. You're going to try to change my child without telling me, the child I birthed, the child that I carried for 9 months. No, that's not. It's just not common sense. So those far left. That far left agenda doesn't fly with the rest of the country, and they have to realize that.
Fetterman is fighting with Crockett. Kirsten Sinema, the former Democrat, is fighting with AOC. Hakeem Jeffries is fighting with Senator Schumer, and they all looking to oust Senator Schumer, who's on a book tour about anti-Semitism, which, by the way, he's quiet in what's happening in New York. Not a word from him.
Not smart people.
Good luck, guys. You need Dr. Drew as a party. I'd like to see what his rates are, see if you could find it in your super PAC. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party's popularity hitting an all-time low in a new poll, and a couple of polls. All that's not stopping them from pushing harder against Donald Trump, with 65% of voters saying they do not want compromise, even if it means nothing gets done. Democratic strategist, former Bill Clinton advisor, and Mike Bloomberg advisor, Doug Schoen joins us now. Doug, what surprised you about the poll?
What surprised me about the poll is how quickly the American people, and even Democrats, Brian, recognize the degree of disorganization, chaos, and lack of strategic direction my party has.
So when you see that the 65% don't want compromise, that's not really what Doug Schoen is about. How do you feel about that when the party that you're in does not want to even go halfway?
I feel that they're heading towards further destruction and devaluation of a brand that is at an all-time low, Brian. I've written and said, as you pointed out, that the Democrats should compromise where appropriate and disagree where they must on things like Social Security and health care and the like. But to just oppose, as my party has, is embarrassing and wrong.
Chuck Schumer had no choice. Am I right?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Because it would have given Donald Trump more power to do whatever, fund whatever he wanted. And it's obvious Democrats would be responsible. The New York Post has an editorial about that. Why do some rational thinkers like Nancy Pelosi, who is very savvy, why does she feel differently?
They're so angry with Trump. What, the pundits have called Trump derangement syndrome is such that people can't put the greater interests of the country and indeed the party ahead of their narrow partisan interests. I think we need to keep our government open at a time of economic dislocation and uncertainty. And I think Schumer did the right thing under difficult circumstances.
Right now, a poll says 30% of Democrats don't see a clear leader. The one who has 10%, the highest, is AOC. Who does Doug Schoen think is the standard bearer for the party? Who are two people you're looking at to maybe take you to the midterms and beyond?
Well, we at this point do not have such a leader in the Congress. People like Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Steve Beshear, the governors have probably the best chance of emerging as a leader. But candidly, Brian, right now the poll is correct. We are leaderless, rudderless, and directionless.
All right, but you're not, Doug. You always know where you're going. Thanks
I'm not.
So much.
I know where to go, and with the help of the American people, we'll get there.
They should listen to you. Straight. Thanks, Doug Schoen.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.